moment of carelessness, an unexpected mistake. Jack accidentally put Tu Tien at risk of losing her only chance to see her biological mother again. Will he be able to correct his mistake before the door to reunion closes forever? Please follow. The opportunity for Tu Tien to meet her biological mother finally appeared. But ironically, it came from Tien and her mother and Mrs. Tui, people in whom Jack had completely lost faith. In the past, they had come to Jack countless times with serious expressions, saying that they had extremely important information about Tu Tien's biological mother. Each time, Jack dropped everything and rushed to meet Mrs. Tui, his heart pounding with the hope that he was about to bring Tu Tien to her biological mother. But then, that hope was always dashed. The meetings often ended with vague stories that led nowhere, accompanied by hints. If you want to know more, Uncle Jack should help us with some money to continue the investigation. At that time, Jack still naively believed that if he just spent money, one day he would find real clues. But in return, he only received silence or fabricated information. The feeling of being taken advantage of gradually turned into anger, then into a vow that he would never let himself fall into their trap again. However, this time, Tien really found something different. He said that he had traveled for many days, crossed remote mountains, and finally asked for information. Her gait, voice, even the mole on her cheek were exactly the same as the description of Tu Tien's mother. Tien came to find Jack. His eyes were no longer sly as usual, but instead urgent. Jack, I'm not joking this time. I've met her. If you don't leave now, I'm afraid it will be too late. Jack folded his arms, leaned back in his chair, his voice cold. Do you think I still believe your words? You said the same thing the last few times. Then what? Just to get money from me? No, this time is different, really different. I have a clear address. Just go with me for a trip. Tien almost begged, his voice faltering. Jack turned his face away, his eyes darkening. In his mind, old images flooded back, the times he drove through the night just to receive a fake handshake and a made-up story. He didn't want to be a fool again. If you have any chance, keep it. I don't have time for this anymore, he said firmly. Tien looked at Jack for a long time, then left. His steps were hurried but heavy, because he knew that if Jack didn't change his mind, this opportunity would slip away forever. As for Jack, he sat alone in the quiet room, his heart filled with doubt. Little did he know that this hesitation could cause Tu Tien to lose the only moment to call out, "Mom," after so many years of waiting. After leaving Jack's house with a helpless expression, Tien trudged back to the old house where mother and son still lived. He walked in, threw his hat down on the table, and exhaled. I've said everything I could. But Jack doesn't believe me. Mom, this time I'm telling the truth. Not lying. Mrs. Tui was sitting on a rickety rattan chair, sipping tea and frowning at her son. She was silent for a few seconds, then put down her cup, her voice thoughtful. It's okay if you don't believe me. The last few times, mother and son, were a bit too much. We fooled people over and over again. Now who would listen to the truth? Tien scratched his head, annoyed. I thought I'd found a bargain, but it turned out to be so hard to eat. Mrs. Tui tilted her head in thought. Her eyes flashed with calculation. Then, as if she suddenly remembered something, the corners of her lips curved up. Wait, I remember now. That Mrs. Loy, Jack's mother, used to be close friends with me. She is a kind person and very soft-hearted. If I speak tactfully, maybe she will open her wallet for me. Tien looked up, his eyes flashing with hope. What do you mean, call her out to talk? Mrs. Tui nodded, her voice firm. Yes, let me try calling. If you say anything more, Jack will only be more cautious. I will beat around the bush. Don't mention the past, just focus on the pitiful story of Tu Tien. Who knows? Having said that, she took out her old phone from her pocket and dialed a number. The other end of the line rang a few beep beep sounds and then someone picked up. Mrs. Thai's voice immediately changed to a soft, warm one. Hello, is that Ms. Loy? Yes, it's been a long time since we last met. I have something to tell you privately. It's very important. If you're free, let's go to the coffee shop at the end of the alley. After telling her the location, she chuckled and hung up. She turned back to look at Tien, her voice commanding. You stay here, don't go anywhere. Let me see her. If I'm clever, I might be able to get some money. With money, everything is easy to solve. Tien nodded, but was still a bit worried. Mom, remember to speak tactfully. Don't reveal too much. Mrs. Tui put on a thin shirt and walked out the door. The golden afternoon sunlight shone on her face, highlighting her wrinkles and sharp gaze. She turned her head back for a moment. Don't worry, I know what to do. Then she strode out to the alley, walking quickly and decisively. In the empty house, Tien sat alone, his fingers tapping on the table, his heart pounding with anxiety. He knew that the meeting between his mother and Mrs. Loy could be the key to everything, or it could be a reckless game, causing everything to collapse if he miscalculated one move. The tea shop at the beginning of the alley was small and quiet, with only a few plastic tables and some old potted plants. Mrs. Twee arrived early, choosing a hidden table in the back, with her back to the street. Occasionally, she glanced at her watch, her eyes filled with excitement and calculation. About 10 minutes later, from afar appeared the figure of a middle-aged woman wearing a white al-baba. It was Mrs. Loy. Her face was kind, but her eyes were a bit sad. As soon as she saw Mrs. Twee, she quickly walked over, her voice warm. "Oh my God, is this Twee? How many years has it been since we last met?" Mrs. Twee immediately stood up, smiling brightly. "Sister Loy, it really is you. I was afraid you were busy and couldn't come out." The two of them sat down, each ordering a glass of iced tea. At first, the conversation only revolved around old stories, stories about farming, stories about old friends, then a few sighs about life. But in Mrs. Thai's heart, each sentence was carefully considered to gradually lead to the main purpose. Mrs. Twee lowered her voice. Her eyes seemed moist. "Sister Loy, I know you care about people, so I dare to speak up. Lately, I feel sorry for Tu Tien." Mrs. Loy was a bit surprised. "Tu Tien? Is that the girl that Jack is taking care of?" "No, I don't know. She's been looking for her biological mother for so many years. And now she finally has a clear clue. But, unfortunately, this matter needs some money to be resolved." Mrs. Loy frowned, her voice worried. "Why do you need money? Jack doesn't know about this?" Mrs. Twee quickly waved her hand, pretending to be embarrassed. "Jack, he suspects me and Tien, thinking that we're playing a trick. This time is really different. But he absolutely doesn't believe it. I just thought, if you help, we can take the girl to see her mother right away." The atmosphere seemed to quiet down. The cicadas outside the alley chirped. The gentle wind shook the leaves but couldn't dispel the tension. Mrs. Loy held her cup of tea, silent for a long time. Her eyes were distant, as if she was imagining Tu Tien hugging her mother in tears of reunion. "Ms. Loy, what do you think?" Mrs. Twee leaned over, her voice urgent, her hands clasped tightly together. Mrs. Loy sighed. "Twee, this is a very important matter. You have to think carefully. But if it really helps her meet her mother, I don't regret it." The corners of Mrs. Thai's lips curved slightly, but she managed to hide her victorious smile. She knew she had just planted a seed of hope in Mrs. Loy's heart. Now, with just a timely push, she was sure she would get what she wanted. After leaving the coffee shop, Mrs. Loy walked and thought. Mrs. Thai's words sounded very fluent, but there was something that made her feel uneasy. Over the years, she knew that Jack was not someone who lost faith in anyone for no reason. There must be a reason for her son to stay away from Tien and Mrs. Twee. When she got home, she put her bag on the table and sat in contemplation. The ticking of the wall clock seemed to urge her to clarify everything before making a decision. She slowly picked up the phone and dialed Jack's number. "Hello, I'm listening, Mom." Jack's voice on the other end of the line was somewhat surprised. Mrs. Loy tried to keep her voice normal. "This child, I just met Mrs. Twee again. She said she had news about Tu Tien's biological mother. Do you know about this?" Jack on the other end was silent for a few seconds, then replied briefly, "Mom, don't believe it. I told you, they just want to take advantage of you. The last few times I almost lost a lot of money without any clues. But this time, she said she had a clear address. Are you sure you don't want to check again?" Mrs. Loy asked, her voice both probing and worried. "Mom, trust me, I know them too well. If this was true, they would have told me from the beginning. Not beating around the bush trying to get money. Don't let them drag you in." Jack's voice was firm, but deep inside there was still a trace of regret. Mrs. Loy was silent. In her mind, the image of the girl Tu Tien appeared, her sad eyes filled with hope when she mentioned her biological mother. She understood the feeling of waiting for a loved one, and that made it difficult for her to ignore this information, even though Jack told her otherwise. "Yes, I know," she said softly, then hung up. After sitting for a long time, Mrs. Loy picked up the phone again, her hands shaking slightly. She thought, if what Mrs. Twee said was true and she didn't help, Tu Tien might lose her only chance to see her mother. But if Jack was right, she would be drawn into a scam. Torn between two streams of thought, she decided to meet Mrs. Twee again, but this time she would be more tactful in probing. Meanwhile, on the other side, Mrs. Twee sat in the old kitchen, a half-smile clearly visible. She believed that with just a little more persuasion, Mrs. Loy would soften. Little did she know that the recent secret call had put her plan at risk of being exposed at any moment.